And then we should be live, but I like to look at my phone because I'm still not used to that delay. All right. Just to make sure it's working. And it is. Okay. All right. So we are now live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. And so welcome to Carnivore Talk, where we talk about the benefits of a carnivore-centric diet. And I have Jeff with me tonight, and this is a round table type discussion on Monday nights. So you're welcome to join us on screen if you would like. It would be a pleasure to have you. If you would like the link, you need to register over at carnivoretalk.com as a member. There's a private members only section there where you can click on the link. So you go over there, register with your email, boom, you got access to the link. You can join us on screen right here. We got room for up to 10 people. And you can also join the channel if you like and get the link that way. But that's totally unnecessary because you can get it for absolutely free because it's not about the money. It's about the community over at carnivoretalk.com. And we are going to talk about this latest trend right now called the sugar diet. And if you've caught wind of this and think it sounds absolutely insane, it's because it is. It's absolutely crazy right now that this is. I'm surprised that this is a fad. So I've heard it for about a week and a half now. Looking down at the comments, Terry, welcome, Terry. She says that she has bought her 5-pound bag of sugar today. How do you start this new diet? Literally, you just cut a slit in the bottom of the bag and open your mouth. Apparently, just let that pour in. And as soon as you run out, you go get yourself another one. And it's supposedly going to work magic for you. And of course, we're being facetious. That's absolutely ridiculous. And then Lauren Gianna says, someone needs to listen to Volter Longo. I'm concerned now about being carnivore. I don't know who that is, but I will look it up. I'm going to actually write that down right now. But feel free to ask any questions you want. We're here to alleviate your concerns. Jeff and I both have been doing carnivore for 2 years. And I know there's someone in the chat that's been doing carnivore for 40 years. Maybe they'll join us later. And it truly is a lifestyle that has benefited us immensely and cured several diseases too. So like, I used to be pre-diabetic, had ulcerative colitis. Those things are gone. Jeff had heart problems. Those are cured. And, and I still do suffer from chronic kidney disease. The kidneys heal slow, if at all. But in my 2 years of carnivore, I'm doing just fine, and I see no reason to give it up yet. So feel free to ask any questions you want. We will spend a lot of time giving attention to the chat. We're usually not so busy that you'll get missed. You won't get missed. We'll see your comment for sure. I'm going to write that down. Volter Longo. So, yeah, please, Lauren, ask away if you have any questions. Then Terry says he's going to start snorting that sugar like cocaine. It might as well be.
That's going to hurt.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you'll probably lose weight. That's one of the things that we're gonna admit to here is like, so does the sugar diet work? It can, but so can snorting cocaine. So that's an apt comparison. And then duck is best deep fried. That's right. All right.
Well, you skipped right over where's the beef.
Did I skip over where's the beef?
They said I feel like some duck, fellas, grilled or smoked. Okay. Now me, I'm a big time meat smoker. I'd just soon have everything smoked.
Mm-hmm. All right. Didn't mean to, I just sat there and said we'll address every comment, and then I skipped one. So I'm sorry. I'm off to a great start.
Best laid plans of mice and men.
All right. So Jeff, when did you start hearing about this sugar diet madness?
About 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It's I didn't understand it. I actually had to look it up to find out what it was about because I'm like, just exactly what are they talking about? Sugar diet. because, the first thing you envision is just eating gobs of sugar, eating gobs of candy. And that's not what it's about. What it should be called, not the sugar diet, it should be called the fructose diet, because it's more about eating fruits than anything. Uh, so I don't think they want to call it fructose diet, because there are so many negative connotations to fructose from the past, from the health world. Yet they don't understand that fructose that they're putting in their cokes is no different than the fructose that they're putting in their bodies from sugar. I mean, from fruits. It's the same thing. Fructose is fructose is fructose. It's a form of sugar, all right, but it's a different form of sugar. Fructose has seven times more glycating than glucose. Sugar glycates your cells and tissues in your body. This means that it gums them up, and the sugar sticks to your cells and tissues and makes them work less effectively. All right, that's what fructose does to you. All right, and so in doing my research, one thing I noticed is that everybody that's promoting this so far, they're all skinny. These aren't people that look like they're trying to lose weight. They're skinny. And there's what we would call the skinny fat. They're people with high metabolisms. Yeah, they don't put on extra pounds, but that doesn't mean they're healthy. Just because you're slim, that does not equate to good health. All right, so that's one of the things I noticed. And they're not talking about candy. They're, for the most part, not even talking about carbs. They're just talking about fruit, from what I could see. Now, what they're claiming is supposedly this releases eating a high fructose diet releases a hormone, FGF21, that speeds up metabolism. This may or may not be true. I think any sugar can probably speed up your metabolism to some extent, just because it's hyping you up. But for those who are already skinny and have high metabolisms, I don't think they need something like that, do they? All right. And the thing is, they are not allowing any fats. They're the exact complete opposite of us, where we thrive. We live off of fats. They're not ingesting any fats at all. They'll eat protein. They'll eat whole vegetables. They are abstaining from highly processed foods. They are abstaining from fat. They're eating lean protein, vegetables, and all the fruit that they want. So does it work? Yes. But why does it work? It's not working because of the sugar. It's working because they're cutting out the highly processed carbs. That's the main reason. They're not eating a bunch of junk. And, you've said it before, Bob, that most of these diets to some extent work when you clean up your diet and eat a specific food. It's getting rid of the junk. Vegetarians, they get rid of the junk. Does their diet work for them? Yes, to an extent, until they have to start supplementing. And that sugar diet or fructose diet is going to be the same thing. It's going to wreck their health if they maintain it. And the sad thing is, it's going to get people who are already overweight thinking that they can eat all the sugar they want, all the fruit they want, and they're going to lose weight, when they're not going to be able to, simply because, yeah, they'll clean up their act, they'll lose a little bit, but they are constantly going to be spiking their insulin. And the insulin hormone, we already know, stores fat. So they are going to stay fat. They're going to stay heavy. They can't help it because of the insulin hormone. So that's not a good thing for them to be doing. In an American populace that is basically already living on a sugar diet, when you factor in that all carbs are sugars, all of them, and we live that way. All right, we're already 50% of our population is obese. So how is being on an all sugar diet working out for 50% of the population that's already obese, 75% that is overweight? It's not working out too good. Uh, so it's, we already know sugar is an addiction. All this is going to do is solidify that addiction and make it that much harder to get off of it when you get off of it, because you're going to have to get off of it because it's not sustainable. Not for health reasons, it's not. And there's no society in the history of mankind that is ever eaten anything remotely close to a sugar diet. The way they're talking about a diet, they just basically off of fruits. In my opinion, it's just dumb, dumb, dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I'm not personally not 100% anti-plant or anti-fruit, but of course we're talking about a little bit of fruit, not like this much fruit, not tons of fruit. And that's exactly what they're shoving down their necks every day is tons of fruit and actually ultra processed sugar. Because if you've looked at some videos, which I have, because I'm working on a video about the sugar diet, and I've been wanting to work on it for a week, but if you remember, I had that accident, so my face was pretty cut up, and now it's healing up. So I'm gonna get it pushed out there. But I've been looking at some videos, and you have influencers like Cole Robinson, and he just promoting the sugar diet, and he's got videos himself just chugging soda, sugary laden soda, gobbling down Sour Patch Kids and candy, and suggesting that you go ahead and pig out on these things, that you're going to lose weight. And then you have people like Mark Bell. Now he's more like what you said. He's more fruit, which and same with like Freely the Banana Girl, more fruit, which again on the surface doesn't sound so bad, except Mark will admit to he supplements that fruit with a bunch of candy. And then Freely the Banana Girl, she thinks that ultra processed cane sugar, she calls them sun crystals, and she actually sprinkles those on all the fruits that she eats as if they weren't sweet enough. And it could be deceiving. So it can be deceiving because these individuals, they look very fit, they look very healthy. Like particularly like Mark Bell, he's a power lifter, he's a bodybuilder. He's literally ripped. Cole's video is actually titled "The Sugar Diet Will Get You Ripped," and but it's worth noting that both of those two influencers, the two men, they used to be on the low carb keto carnivore side of the aisle for a long time, and that's actually where they were when they got ripped. So yes, they are leaning up a little more with this sugar diet, which is probably because they're, by not eating a lot of protein and not eating fat, they're probably putting themselves in a caloric deficit. Not that we put a lot of, we don't give a lot of credence to calories per se, but it's still kind of a loose metric to kind of,
Right.
to tell you how much you're eating, and so they're probably not consuming a lot because they're just consuming this sugar and until they feel satiated or satisfied. And if I eat too much sugar, I'm going to feel sick. So I'm not going to eat a lot of sugar. And I'm sure that's true with most people as well. But yeah, I am concerned about the long-term ramifications. So, does it work? Yes. They wouldn't be making videos about it if it didn't. There's other people who have tried it and who follow them, who try it, and it works for them too. But the problem is the long-term consequences. Because just like you talked about, fat and protein, fatty acids that come with fat soluble vitamins like A, D, and K, and amino acids that come from these proteins, those are requirements for the human body. You cannot thrive, and in the end, you cannot survive without them.
No.
But what you don't need, and you can still thrive and survive, is a single carbohydrate whatsoever. And so there's someone who does this long term is probably going to have some nutritional deficiencies. So someone that does it as a weight loss hack temporarily, I mean, that's someone's personal choice. I wouldn't recommend it. And if someone did that, I would hope that they got back on a sensible, proper human diet as soon as possible, because I think doing this long term is you're going to definitely suffer from malnutrition, and it's probably going to pave the way to a lot of a lot of diseases that we know have their roots back in carbohydrates and sugar. So,
well, and you cannot keep spiking your insulin to those kind of levels. You just can't do it. It's going to cause metabolic issues down the road. It's going to cause diabetes. It's going to cause all kinds of problems. Ask any diabetic, how did they eat before they became diabetic? And they ate a lot of carbs. They ate a lot of sugar. You cannot eat that way. It's not sustainable for your health.
I know I couldn't. So carbs is exactly a lifetime of carbs is what led to my, myriad of diseases in my early 40s that I've reversed by removing the carbs. So
there's been dozens and dozens of wacky diets over the years that we've all seen and we've all tried, to lose weight. Like the grapefruit diet. I don't know if you remember that. That was another one. Yeah. And what was another one?
Watercress.
A rice diet, a potato
watercress.
diet. Watercress.
Yeah. And so when you eat when you eat one of these diets where you're only eating one thing, it means you're not eating all the junk. And that's the main thing. That's why you start off losing weight. It's because you're not eating that junk. You're just eating one thing. But like I said, you can't sustain it because it's not healthy. It doesn't provide you with all the nutrition that you need. Whereas the carnivore, which I hate using the term diet only in that this is how we eat. But with carnivore, that is, you can eat one food and get all the nutrition you need. That is the only food in the world you can eat and get every bit of the nutrition you need for human life. So going with something like eating all sugar, it ain't going to work. It can't.
Right. Yeah.
It'll fade out eventually.
Yeah. And I agree too. And then, the malnutrition and the health issues there, it's, when I had high triglycerides, that was a result of, for most people, they're high triglycerides as a result of eating cookies, cakes, sugar, pies, things like that. Diabetes is basically, a carbohydrate disorder. What else do we have that's related to sugar? Fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, and just inflammation. Sugar's the primary driver of inflammation. And then inflammation is the primary driver of atherosclerosis, cardiac disease. So I just think that this is pretty dangerous to be on this kind of an eating regimen long term, not only for the lack of nutrition, but for the damage you're pelting your body with.
And we know that carbs and sugar. Yeah, you keep stalling out a whole bunch. I don't know if it's from your end or my end.
On your end, you stall out on me too, so I think it might be your end.
Yeah,
what about me?
Be. I don't know.
I was seeing Jeff freeze, but I can still see you chewing.
Quiet.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying my 3 pounds.
Yeah, we'd ask you a question, but you're stuffing your face right now, so we don't want to disturb you. I don't blame you.
3 pounds of chuck roast tonight.
Yeah. What was I trying to say? No, I don't remember now. I lost my train of thought.
Oh, we were talking about other kinds of diets. Okay. So like, a carnivore diet, will work. A keto diet, a low carb diet can work. Even a well-crafted Mediterranean diet or paleo diet can work. And believe it or not, I'll say this on a carnivore channel, a well-crafted and supplemented vegan diet, actually can be maintained, but, sustained. But this sugar diet is not something that can be sustained because of the lack of nutrition. And when I think of diet, you brought up lifestyle. And so part of the reason why we do what we do is because, there's a reason why we call this a proper human diet, is because we're trying to imitate what our ancestors ate, because there's a pretty good chance that that's healthy for us, considering that all these issues and all these diseases are modern day issues, modern day diseases that came along with the advent of processed food and junk. So, that's why we are okay with something you can hunt, something you can milk, and maybe on occasion, something you can pluck off a vine or a tree, but not all the time, so we want to eat, you want to eat like a human would eat. Yeah. You want to eat like a human would eat thousands of years ago and throughout time, pretty much. You don't want to, but downing all this sugar and candy. I mean, that's not even natural. So it's not going to have good effects on your body. So, all right, let's go to some comments. Let's catch up over here. We have Rick first heard about the sugar diet from his vegan friends, and some recommended Durian Rider. So I've heard the name Durian Rider tossed around, but I haven't looked him up and looked at any of his content. So, but I heard that he's a big advocate of this sugar diet as well. Where's the Beef says Rick could run laps around Durian Rider. And who's coming in here? Oh, it's my dog. And Rick agrees. And Rick posts his bike rides, his videos. Durian Rider must ride bikes as well. I'm catching on to this here. And he had to look up what Sour Patch Kids were. Well, I'll tell you what. I used to love sour candy. So they're basically like gummy bears, but they're sour, And, before I was even into the health sphere of any kind, I used to go to movies and always got a box of Sour Patch Kids. I thought they were so good. They'd probably make me sick now.
No, I've never had them.
Yeah, no, but there was a time when all this ultra processed junk, I used to think it was all good. Now I can't stand any of it. No, I think the calories idea works for the sugar eaters, not us carnivores. Yeah. So that's true. We tend to knock the calories in, calories out thing. And because we know it's not that black and white. Okay. But if you're on a sugar diet, the principle behind calories in, calories out, can you lose weight? Yeah, you can lose weight. You're also going to starve. So that's why we don't like it. We like to lose weight and feel satisfied. We don't like to lose weight and starve. So we don't bother with the calories in, calories out approach. All right. It sounds like Terry says, welcome, Terry, by the way. It sounds like they haven't done any research into fructose and the damage that it does. From what I've read, it's the worst sugar to consume. And
absolutely.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Especially
Dr. Baker especially talks about it.
Yeah, in excess. At the same time, Dr. Baker, like if he says if you want some fruit, he ain't gonna shame you for it. He's Dr. Baker's very, he's very laid back.
Fruit once in a while.
Yeah. And that's why I made that comment about this much fruit, not a truck full of fruit. And
like you said, there was only 2 weeks out of the year that early man had access to fruit. Just 2 weeks, unless they preserved some of it where they could keep it, longer. But even then, it would have been eaten in moderation, simply because they wanted to make it last. Yeah. But fruit was only available for a short period of time. I know I've got fruit trees. I've got peach trees. I don't eat them. I'll let the birds and the worms have them. But I know there's a short window, and if all you ate fruit was once a year or a couple of times a year during that 2-week period, it wouldn't hurt you a bit. You'd be just fine. It's the fact that we now have it 24/7 at our disposal.
Right. Yeah.
And
At
that
2
is
weeks.
what's causing the majority of the fatty liver disease.
Yeah. That 2 weeks reference comes down to, I've mentioned that, like, yeah, so humans ate fruit during a harvest season, but I mentioned that in my backyard, I've got these apple trees and they're only there for about 2 weeks until the deer have eaten them all. And when I say apple trees, like they produce apples like smaller. They're not even as big as this mouse here. They're little tiny apples. And so in that second week of August, there's a week where I'll come home from work and probably have one. And then when they're gone, they're gone, So yeah. Going crazy on the fruit, like the sugar diet basically demands of you, is not healthy. So
no, man was not meant to eat that much sugar. This sugar diet is mainly for people who are tired of fighting it. They're giving in to their cravings. They're giving in to their addictions. Nobody needs
it. Sounds great. I can eat sugar and candy all day and lose weight.
Hey,
I mean,
I wish it was possible. If it was possible,
that sounds fantastic. But I wouldn't try it. Even if it would work for me, because remember, it is working for people. It does work. There's science behind it, but again, it's going to have long-term consequences. So I wouldn't even attempt it. Plus, I'd become sugar addicted again, and trying to get back on a proper human diet might be impossible. If I tried the sugar diet, I would just get addicted to sugar. And, even when I tried to go back to a regular diet, I'd find reasons to keep eating sugar. And the next thing I know, I think anybody that goes on the sugar diet, the odds of them putting the 50, 60 pounds back on because they return to their old habits is super likely. Like, that's the thing. You don't learn how to eat properly by going on a sugar diet. And that's the problem. When you go on a diet, you should be learning what is actual food. What's real food? Sour Patch Kids aren't real food.
No.
Coca-Cola is not real food. So the problem, you don't learn anything. And so when you've lost your weight, if you've lost your weight on the sugar diet, you're just going to blimp right back up. And then it's going to be harder, probably harder to take it back off again.
Yeah.
So you never learn. So it might work, but it's just the downward trend on a pattern of yo-yo dieting that you're setting yourself up for. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't do it.
If I could do it, I'd have me a half gallon of Bluebell ice cream sitting in front of me right now, chowing down, but just can't do that.
My opinion, the sugar diet reminds me of an incident that happened back, I think, in the mid-'80s in Guyana. That's the mentality. It's the people are just going to follow this fad. They're not going to do any research, because I can tell you, out of the 100 people that I've brought this carnivore diet and they tried to explain it to them, they're not willing to do the research. They want an easy out. And if it works, and they're not looking at the full picture, whereas, what did they look like previously before they started this? There's no before. I haven't seen any before of these people where they have looked like me or Carrie from Homestead How. You don't see a before like that. You don't hear about the health issues, the ramifications of eating all this glucose and fructose. They don't talk about the possible side effects. They don't care about that. They're just looking for the clicks. That's what these people need to understand.
It is, and that's a good point. Is the people that are promoting it are already fit, lean, muscular. You know, they're not. There's nobody on YouTube right now that is like, I was 400 pounds and now I'm 185 thanks to the sugar diet. That just doesn't exist yet. You know. So, and now that I said it, some knucklehead will pop up with saying just that, I'm sure, but
and that's fine. You know, if it works for you, you don't get diabetes and you can stay metabolically healthy, more power to you.
That's true. And there is some benefit to just losing weight overall. You know, I think this is a horrible way to do it. And I think if you do this, you do it in the short term or in short spurts because of the long-term health ramifications. But yeah, losing weight is great. You know, so there's people that lose weight and they see their markers improve just from taking off the fat. You know, so will the sugar diet produce those kind of results for some people? Maybe. You know, but I just still think it's super risky and not indicated. You know, because it's not proper for a human.
I'll still put our numbers up against theirs anytime.
That's the proof is that's where it is. It's the proof is in the pudding. When your odds of getting healthy on this type of lifestyle versus that type of lifestyle, all my money is going on carnivore.
Yeah,
hands down. Whoa, hey, there's Rick finally.
Yep,
I got Rick on board, and with that, real quick, can you remember your thought, Meathead?
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, you're done. Okay, I was gonna say. So yeah, Rick, thanks for joining us, and I just wanted to remind anybody who's watching that you too can be on the screen with us as part of this round table discussion. There's room for 10 at the table. We have 4 right now, and all you have to do is find the link, and the link is over at carnivoretalk.com. You register, there's a private members area, and you can get the link there for free. Or if you want to chip in 99 cents or something as a way of saying, hey, this is cool, you can join the YouTube channel as well. But that we don't care about that. So feel free to join us or just keep watching and participate in the chat. That's fine. So Rick said, Penn Jillette lost weight eating potatoes. Who's Penn Jillette?
You remember the team? Yeah, Penn and Teller.
Magicians.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very, very famous.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, we talked about that. The potato diet is a thing. Rodney, good to see you, Rodney. I posted a video yesterday of when I went through the checkout line at a local Walmart. They have situated the line to where you literally have to walk through 50 feet of Snickers and every sort of sugar. That is true, and I think obviously they put that there to try and nickel and dime you on your way out and tempt you. But I think that's also there for the kids because that's always in their eye level. You know, they'll get the kids to tug on you and be like, "I want this." So yeah, it's sad. Rick says there are no carbohydrate foods I enjoy.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all manure to me.
Yep.
So, and I would believe it because he's probably the king of carnivores here, as far as I know.
No doubt, he's my hero.
Yeah,
king of quacks.
I wish I would have started when I was as young as him.
Yeah,
15 years old.
The only person I can think that might have been doing carnivore longer than you is that woman up in Canada. Was she been doing
Maggie?
That long? Is she?
Maggie, 60 years.
She's like 80 something, right? She's been carnivore for 60 years.
She's been doing it for 60 years.
She don't look that old. She looks like she's in her 60s.
She's still jumping fences and out working the young boys.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think she likes the taste of any carbs either. Jiffy, welcome, Jiffy. The Dolly Parton diet shows my age. Oh, I've never heard of the Dolly Parton diet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I know who Dolly Parton is, but I'm 49, so I was during the 80s. I was mostly.
This was like early 90s.
Early 90s. I would have been in my teens. But I didn't care about diet in my teens.
Yeah, you had hair back then. Was probably rocking it out.
I was, yeah. And I used to be able to. I had long hair. My senior photo, I could reach around my back and tug on my own ponytail.
Dang hippie.
Yeah. All right. It's not so much what we add, but what we remove. And
Good point.
yeah. All right. I have no birth record. You guys are wrong. This is not eating sugar only. It's eating sugar alone. It's all about not mixing macros. Yeah, no, we get that. So they're
Apparently,
eating
he
sugar.
missed the first part of my speech.
Yeah. No, we're aware of that, and we addressed it. It's eating sugar in the absence of fat and in very little protein. So some individuals are like no fat, no protein. Most people are, is very little fat or almost no fat, and they're eating just sugar and then maybe a little bit of protein. I know the one guy, Mark Bell, I think he's sugar all day long and then has a little bit of like 99% lean chicken or turkey around dinner time. So yeah, there's some nuance to it on an individual to individual basis.
So there, we're not wrong.
I can't freeze because I'm not on video. Haha! Well, you come join us. You're more than welcome to join us. So, the only sugar in our house goes to the hummingbirds.
Amen.
Yep. I just listened to part of it today. I'm not quitting carnivore yet. 18 months in and feel amazing at almost 58. And so, that's what you need to really latch onto right there is how good you feel 18 months into your carnivore diet. I'm not sure if you're the same person that mentioned Volt or Longo earlier that I'm going to look up, but yeah, that's usually what sells someone is, we recommend you start this for 30, 60, preferably 90 days. And at the end of 90 days, you're like, man, I'm feeling great. I've got these issues have gone away. I've got some energy and skin's clearing up or what, however carnivore seems to be benefiting you. And then you decide, I'm going to go to the 120 day mark. And then I'm going to go to the 6 month mark. And then some people are like, hey, I'm at a year, and they just keep it up. And that's perfectly fine is to continue eating carnivore. I certainly see no harm in using it as an elimination diet and then slowly bringing some things back in and seeing if they're okay for you personally. But at the same time, there's no harm in just living the rest of your life on an all meat diet. It's perfectly healthy.
Agreed.
All right. Jiffy says hi. So does Meathead. In Louisiana, we had wild blackberries for a few weeks. We picked them, but we got punished. So many thorns. Yeah, I used to have those.
Yeah, here in Texas. Here in Texas, it's dewberries and Mustang grapes.
Yeah, we had.
That's what we go out and pick.
When we first moved into this house, we had a lot of berry bushes out there. So we had raspberries, and then we have cherry trees and apples. So I still will pick the cherries and the apples, not pick as in like harvest bushels of them, but I mean I'll pick them off the tree and nibble on them. For the cherries, you got to watch out for worms. They're usually infested. You can't get too many of them. And the apples, like I said, 2 weeks out of the year, and then they're gone. The deer get them.
The worms are just berries. Extra protein.
The berry, well, I can't bring myself to eat one with a worm in it yet. The berries, though, we ended up mowing those over because, we got tired of the thorns trying to mow around them and everything. So we ended up just mowing those over. But we used to pick those too. So
I bet the ducks would love them.
And the ducks would love them. And yeah, so like I think that's fine. I would still do it. And of course, probably all three of my guests here would not, because they're much more stricter.
I'd love the duck that ate them.
Yeah.
I would feed them to the duck, then eat it.
That's what I do.
Dr. Nancy Appleton wrote a book decades ago called Lick the Sugar Habit with all sorts of info on the damage sugar does. She was ahead of most back then. Yes, absolutely. So that's the other thing too, is like, I mean, everybody knows the junk food is junk food. This is why we call it junk food. Everybody knows that sugar is bad for you, especially in excess. Everybody knows or should know that, except for Freely, that sugar does not have any nutrition in it. She thinks that it actually magically adds nutrition to your food. And I should find that clip and play it. It's actually ridiculous. And so, like, you know, this is knowledge that we've known now probably for decades, especially since low carb and keto have become, you know, more and more predominant. The carnivore and keto researchers, you know, have really, you know, dove deep into the ramifications of sugar and how someone can have known that, especially someone who used to be on the keto and carnivore train, like Mark Bell and Cole Robinson. You know, Mark Bell even wrote a book called The War on Carbs, you know, and now they've done an about face and they're all about sugar. It's to me, it's mind boggling. It's mind boggling. So, all right. Jiffy says hi to Meathead. Terry says, I'm going to start the Cool Hand Luke diet. That's
There
where
you
you eat 50 hard-boiled eggs in one sitting. Who's Cool Hand Luke?
You never saw that movie?
That's
No.
sacrilege.
Oh,
Seriously.
Okay,
I
I
can't believe you
gotta
don't
write that
know who
down.
Cool Hand Luke is.
I'll write it down. Cool Hand Luke.
That's one of the that's one of the best movies made right there, man.
Cool. Let me put that parentheses movie. All right. Okay.
We have a
failure to
Failure.
communicate.
to communicate.
I've heard that quote before.
That's from Cool Hand
Come
Luke.
Starts a movie cutting off parking meters.
There you go.
All right. Does he eat eggs in the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
He takes on a challenge to eat 50 hard-boiled eggs. He says he can do it.
No.
I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Okay. So, Meathead, how many eggs were you able to pound down in one sitting?
The other day I did half a pound. No, it was almost a full pound of bacon and 10 eggs.
Mm-hmm. All
just
right.
in one sitting.
I think I've done 8. I've done 8 eggs at once. I don't think I've done.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I ate a dozen eggs a day for many, many years, for decades, trying to kill myself.
Yeah. I did 10 eggs yesterday along with some pulled pork.
All right. We continue here. Kitchen Witch could eat 2 eggs. Oh, yeah, hard-boiled eggs. You know, I can scramble up some eggs and eat tons of them, but hard-boiled eggs would be difficult for me to go through because they're kind of.
I used to be scrambled all the time, and I used to be. I had an aversion to anything runny, slimy yolk, but now that is the crown jewel when I cook eggs. They got to be sunny side up. I got to have some juice, some gravy, whatever to dip my bacon in, get it all over my face, and wipe it off with my shirt. Sorry, people. I apologize for earlier, but when I was eating, I purposely put on my old work shirt so I could just wipe my mouth and hands on it.
We had a Facebook comment said he couldn't watch you eat.
It's funny. I got work shirts that look just like that.
I skipped over that one here. So Nick says, I'm testing the sugar diet, and I see he commented more below, so we'll get back to that. Rick has a full head of hair and all good teeth, looking sharp for carnivore. And
a nice compliment.
Yeah. Anyone else doing a strict beef, butter, bacon, and egg challenge, or is that a girl thing? Not currently, but I have done a BBE challenge multiple times. So, in fact, I should probably do another one. And, in fact, we did a challenge in the community. Was it January or February? We
did one each month.
We did one each. Yeah, I think one of them was a lion diet, right? Or was it just? I think it was think it was just an all month carnivore challenge, and you decided to try and challenge yourself to the lion diet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it was
no,
we were following oh goodness,
Carrie,
can't think of his name. Carnivore doctor.
Baker.
Anyway,
Chafee?
huh? Baker.
Baker.
Yeah, it was Baker. Anyways, he does Carnivore World Challenge, January, whatever it is.
January World Carnivore Month. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were just joining him along with that.
Yeah.
And then we did one in February, and then we did one in March too, if I remember.
Yeah, we had 3 months in a row of various challenges. So
Wow.
yeah, I think March was an exercise one. So just getting out there and increasing your steps or something because the weather was getting better.
Right.
All right. Day set. I'm hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Sugar people similar to flat earthers. That makes me think of Bart K. He'll use that expression a lot. People they belong to the nutrition flat earth.
It's not a stretch. It's not a stretch.
Yeah. All right. Nick says, I think the most important thing that we can do for our health is to get less fat, lose the body weight. Body weight comes down and all-cause mortality drops. Sugar fasting is not permanent. Okay, so now I actually agree with this statement that maybe not as the most important thing, but is certainly important. Taking off the weight is important. It will do wonders. And if you're going to do a sugar fast or a sugar diet, and that's your prerogative. And if you don't do it in the long term, would you lose some weight and then be able to get back to a state of health again? Yeah, I think so. The human body, can heal itself just fine. So when we talk about how we're skeptical about this, we're thinking about people who have a lot of weight to lose and do this long term, because that's a long time without some essential vitamins and nutrients.
Well, they're talking. You can't just do this for even 30 days. You got to do it for like 3 months to 6 months. And I don't think any of us on this panel can afford, other than Rick. I don't think any of the three of us, we would not be able to. We wouldn't want to jeopardize our health.
Well, those that would encourage a sugar diet for 3 to 6 months, that's where I think we need to give them caution. Like that's what we think is dangerous.
It is.
Some of these influencers will say, do it for 2 or 3 days and then go back to your other diet. And if you've got the willpower to pull that off, you still have there's still that potential for the damage that it causes, the glycation, the fatty liver, the high blood pressure, the inflammation, all that stuff is possible. But, obviously if you don't do this long term, if you did it short term, you have more chance of recovering from that. So, so some of these influencers will say that, like, just do this for a couple days and then stop, and then maybe a week or two later do it for a couple more days and then stop. They're trying to be more balanced, and I think, and a lot of those that are saying that, those are the ones that were keto carnivore before. So I think they're probably also having a battle in their conscience of conflicting information that they've learned over the years. They're trying to rationalize it. But Nick, no, I agree with you. So losing fat is important, and yeah, you're going to be healthier overall just by losing fat alone. And
and I don't
please don't make your sugar fast permanent. Yes,
I don't see how you can lose fat when you're constantly spiking your insulin.
Well, that's where it comes down to.
It's a fat storage hormone.
That's true, but there's probably still a caloric deficit, and there's that the potential issue. There's the potential thing with the FGF 121, or I don't even remember the name of it, but there's that. That's kind of what they're saying is helps in this regard.
But
I will be
everybody,
curious to.
I would-
I'll be curious to see anybody that does this for like 6 months to a year.
that's,
Yeah, I hope nobody does it.
I want to see the
I-
result.
I hope nobody
no,
does it.
this
They'll
is
probably die.
this is where I'm saying, this is what I'm saying is we haven't seen this long term. These jokers are trying to blow smoke up the backside of people, saying this is optimal. It's, I mean, you are, yeah, guaranteed you're going to lose weight. Is it going to jeopardize your health in the end? Probably. Everybody is just like we can't recommend carnivore for everybody. You know, it's not a cure-all. It's not a one shoe fits everybody.
No.
Right.
So this is what these people are peddling, and it's a joke.
Right. Yes. So it's definitely, not long-term sustainable. It is a weight loss hack, so, and, there's reasons why I wouldn't do it, but there's people out there that are going to do it and they're going to try it. And,
Well,
we need to, I just think they need to be cautious. So Nick continues to say short-term changes in biomarkers induced from the sugar is less of a worry than being chronically fat. And that may be true as long as those changes are short-term. So, Paul Newman baby, so sexy with a belly full of eggs. That must be a reference to that movie.
Yeah, he was the star.
I was 9 months carnivore. My health went south. 3.5 weeks on the sugar diet now. Okay, sorry to hear that your health went south. I'd actually be kind of interested in knowing exactly what that means,
I'd be interested in the details myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, some people, like I thought the same thing, when because of my kidney, I don't know if you follow my channel at all, but I got it all on video. I have chronic kidney disease and my triglycerides spiked initially. It caused me some concern right away, but they're actually down to normal now. And well, not normal, but they're down, to an acceptable level now. And but some people, they'll see their cholesterol or their LDL go up while they're actively losing weight, and they might freak out. Their doctor might freak out, and they start getting the statin talk. And but what gets overlooked is that LDL is often stored in adipose tissue, and as you're losing weight, that gets released into the bloodstream, so it will go up. But oftentimes, a lot of people's LDL goes back down. So I don't know what the outcome will be, but I'm experimenting. Well, you know what? And please come back and let us know. Honestly, this is actually good. I want to hear people who are trying this, and I want to get some honest feedback. So, I am curious how this is going to work out for you, Nick. So please, feel free to come back and let us know. All right. Is it grocery eggs or farm? Big difference. That's true. We can talk about eggs for a bit.
Mine are farm eggs. I raise my own.
Yeah. Who goes out of their way to make sure that they get pastured eggs?
Yeah, I do.
I do most of the time. Now, sometimes they're sold out, and I'll get,
I don't
what I
buy
can
them.
get.
So I don't buy
Rick,
them.
yours are farm fresh.
They're canal fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but no, I always go for the pastured eggs. Here's one for you. So who can answer this? I'm sure you all can. Why do we recommend pastured eggs over conventional eggs when it comes to nutrition?
What now?
Why do we recommend pastured eggs over conventional eggs when it comes to nutrition?
Because the chickens, when they're pasture raised versus cage free or free range, is because the free range and cage free, they're still within a limited area and they are stacked and packed. Whereas pasture raised have more room to forage what they naturally eat. And that's where the main staple of their food supply comes from, is foraging.
Well,
And
chickens,
that means they're healthier. Go ahead. I'm sorry, George. Jeff.
chickens are a monogastric animal. So, being as such, they can't process grains and stuff like a cow can. So, consequently, they are where we get part of the saying from that you are what you eat. In that, when they're ingesting grains, you're going to get more of those omega-6 fatty acids than what you normally would with a cow who can eat the same thing. So that's one of the reasons why pasture raised eggs are healthier, because they're eating a more natural diet. Now, that being said, chickens will eat grass. They will eat bugs. They will eat grains. They will eat anything they find out in the pasture. Okay. They will pick my pastures clean if I let them. If they didn't, you know, like where my chickens are kept up overnight, they have a big yard that's got a netting over it to keep the owls and hawks from getting them. But they've got that picked clean, totally clean. So they'll eat just about anything. They're as bad as hogs. Uh, so they, but when they can eat their preferred food source, which is bugs, they're eating their natural diet, and it creates a healthier omega-3, omega-6 profile. And all in all, it's just a healthier egg for us. Now, the proof for that. Now, for me, I'm not sensitive when it comes to egg whites, egg yolks. But for those that are sensitive to that stuff, you find a lot of people, they can't eat store-bought eggs, but they can eat farm fresh eggs that are pasture raised. And that shows the difference in the nutritional profile right there. That some people can eat them, some people can't. They'll see a difference.
Well, the other thing about birds don't chew their food. They have to process their food in their stomach, and they eat rocks, and they eat bugs, and they eat plant material. They eat a bunch of different stuff. So I'm sure that what's going on in terms of the bacteria and microorganisms inside of these birds is totally different than what you'd find in one of those monoculture chicken warehouses.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the wild chickens don't seem to get sick. They eat almost anything. They run around here in the parking lots, in the street. They're all over the place. And the only thing that kills them seems to be predators. And they eat everything. Like you said, they will dig holes. They get worms. They get cockroaches. They go in the garbage. They look for any kind of insect, anything they want to eat. They'll eat fruits and sometimes and berries. Sometimes they'll eat grass. Sometimes they eat the weirdest things.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they go in the sun. And I think that all the eggs that I pick from the wild have very thick, strong shells. But the ones you get from the store, you can break in your hand.
Have you ever tried to open a guinea egg?
No.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Man. Yeah. I got between what my chickens put out, for me, I got a neighbor who's got a bunch of guineas. I helped him get started with his guineas, and his guineas put out more than what they can eat. So, about every other week, I'll go over and get about 3 dozen guinea eggs from him. I think that's what I ate yesterday. Was those 10 eggs I ate yesterday were all guinea eggs. But they have an extremely hard shell, and then the membrane inside is extremely tough
thick.
too.
About as thick as a thumbnail.
Yeah. So the first time you whack one on the counter, it's like it didn't do nothing. Is this thing hard boiled or what? But yeah, they got an extremely tough shell.
There's wild guineas running around the nursing home near here. Years ago, they had a farm, and when they shut down the farm in the 80s, somehow those birds have survived all the way to this day. So over there by the nursing home and the apartments, there's still guineas running around.
Now, the reason I was asking is because when I go buy pastured eggs which is usually Sam's Club, on the carton, it'll always say, "These chickens have been fed a vegetarian diet." And I'm like, well, I thought they were pastured eggs, you know, but I'm sure that means that, you know, they're giving them feed along with everything they can run around and scourge for out in the pasture. But I always find it kind of ironic that, you know, it says that they're fed a vegetarian diet when the benefit of a pastured chicken is supposed to be that they were able to eat their species appropriate diet. And, but you can tell the difference, you know, so I always get them. And then we do have, my wife, Crystal, works with someone who has chickens at home. And so we'll get farm fresh eggs from them, unwashed, and they last forever. And then we've got also places locally where you can drive down the street and get your eggs. So we have access to eggs that we know for sure are raised in the pasture, as well as what they sell at the store that claims to be pasture raised eggs.
Something that's real popular around my neck of the woods, there's an app called Nextdoor. And what it allows you to do is connect with your neighbors, people, you know, in your area. And I can go on there anytime, day or night, and I can always find somebody selling farm fresh eggs. Now, I can't guarantee what they've been feeding them. You know, they may have been putting them on, they may be in a cage and putting them on a straight grain diet for all I know. But most of the people I see have their chickens out running loose, or in large pens. So if anybody out there is wondering where to get these fresh eggs, download that neighborhood app or Nextdoor.
Nextdoor.
I'm sorry, not neighborhood, Nextdoor.
Yeah, Nextdoor.
Download Nextdoor and check your area and see if you can't find somebody that's selling some fresh eggs.
Yeah,
I know in my area they're going about $4 a dozen.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're $4.15 a dozen at the store.
People at work, they sell. I mean, there's one guy. He doesn't bring them in all the time, but he can bring in like, I don't know, 12, 3, 8, 54, 60. He can bring in about 5 dozen at a time, and like every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But he doesn't ask for anything. Then there's a couple more people I know of. They sell them for like $2 a dozen at work.
Wow.
Stupid cheap.
Can anybody help me install the app on my phone?
Hey,
Sure.
this isn't. Did you think this was Antiques Roadshow?
If we had Gen Z on here, they would ask you, "What is that thing?"
What is that? Yeah.
I use these. I've actually talked to people online with it.
I was gonna say, is that the phone you use on Saturdays?
That's one of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you're watching and you don't know already, Rick does a live starting at Saturday at 8. It was for me. It's 8 a.m. Eastern time. So that's Eastern time for you too. You know, 8 a.m. on Saturday to time indefinite. It may go to noon. It may go to 2. You know, it just kind of depends on how things are going. But yeah, it's always an active conversation, and go check that out on Saturday. And he'll do a call in, and you can actually talk to him on that archaic device he was just holding up to the camera.
That's right. And I have a Radio Shack phone patch.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to some comments here. I had carbs only diet, but grains, and it was forced due to war in Ukraine 6 months, but I added supplements. All right. Now he's showing off. Is that like your switchboard? Yeah.
That's how I connect to my mixer.
All right. Nick talks about doing the sugar diet in short durations. Yes, yeah, we talked about it. He caught that. Okay. Dayset says lost a huge amount of weight, but there were no other sources of food really. Still not sugars. And you know, yeah, obviously, if all you can eat is what's available to you, and it's either that or starve to death, obviously, you know, eat. So yeah, we understand those circumstances just fine. Rodney probably already left the house. He said good night. And I agree, not good long term. That there is not optimal human health if we're not eating meat. Yes, and that's what we believe here on Carnivore Talk, is a carnivore centric diet, whether that's carnivore lion diet, carnivore, strict carnivore, dirty carnivore, ketovore, keto, low carb, animal based. You know, we definitely believe in the power behind and the nutrition in meat. You know, so we definitely believe in being meat centric to some degree, and so we completely agree with you here. What if you give it a try? If that's in the context of the diet we're talking about, that's entirely your prerogative. If you just came on, go back to the beginning, and you can hear why we're especially concerned about this diet and the potential ramifications of it. Especially if someone just hears the word sugar diet and doesn't do any research, and I can just eat all the candy and drink all the soda I want, and eat no protein, no fat, and lose weight. You know, that's a recipe for disaster in the long run. So
Get scurvy or gout.
Yeah. So if you're going to do it, I hate to say this, but go to those influencers and listen to them and get an understanding and just be cautious. So go there and find out why it works. Then come back here and rewatch this video and find out why we would not suggest it. So.
Do your research.
Right.
Well, and you know, that goes with anything. That goes with carnivore too. Do your research. Know what you're doing when you get into it, so that you can do it right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many times do we see on our talk forums where somebody comes in, they had no idea what they're doing, they thought this was just about eating meat, and then they wonder why it's not working for them. You know,
Right.
because they're not eating the right amount of fat, they're eating too much protein, they're not eating enough foods, or they're still allowing carbs in, you know. So
or it's all processed.
I don't
They
care
all
what
think
kind of
it's
diet you're doing.
it's all beef jerky and pork rinds, and no, that's you can't.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't care
carnivore
what kind
diet's
of
not the
diet you're
pork rind
doing.
diet. You know,
Research it. Know what you're getting into.
Terry says sugar is the food for most cancers. That's a good point, right there.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Cancer
going
thrives on
through
sugar.
cancer again. I'm
Glucose.
5 years cancer free. Awesome, Terry. That is awesome news. And yeah, that is true. So there's a lot of information out there that cancer thrives on glucose, and one of the ways to help battle a cancer is to try and deprive that cancer of glucose.
Mm-hmm.
Nick says fruitarians exist, and they are the epitome of losing body weight. Now that's true. Every fruitarian I see is skinny.
Yep.
They waste away into nothing and die.
Exactly.
And that's true. I've actually seen headlines of this vegan influencer, this fruitarian died. You know, that is true. Sugar fasting and sugar dieting is not telling people to become vegans and fruitarians.
They promote eating protein.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
They also promote not eating fat.
Right. Yeah.
Which, you know, all right, that makes sense, really, when you get right down to it, because where do you get your energy from? You're getting it from either fats or you're getting it from carbohydrates or sugars.
Yeah. Our diet is fat and protein in the absence of carbs. They're doing some protein and carbs in the absence of fat.
Okay.
So if you abstain from the fats, you're going to be better off eating the sugar. You're going to have to get your energy from somewhere.
Okay. Here's my deal with the whole nip it in the bud and finish it. When we're talking about carnivore, we're talking about fats and sugar and what's good, what's not. Sustainability is number one, but the whole point of the carnivore diet is not about losing weight. It's not the trick, the hack to weight loss. This is a health journey for the majority of us.
Yep.
It's a health journey. It's not I need to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to go on the carnivore diet. No. This is something that we know we've found our numbers get better. We feel better. We're not trying to get shredded. So there's no argument or fight that I don't remember where I was going to go with this, other than the fact that, in my opinion, the sugar diet is a farce. Anybody's stance on it, I don't.
It is.
Yeah, I think it goes back to where, you know, it's a weight loss hack, yeah, but it's not optimal health, you know, in the long term. So, you know, the reason we do what we're going to do as carnivores or as meat based dieters, having a meat based lifestyle, whether we're strict carnivore or not, is we're thinking about nutrition and our body's overall needs in the long term. So yeah, so we're not looking to get shredded, you know. We do lose weight, and gradually,
that's a bonus.
you know, that we lose weight. And sure, there's some people who are doing this and losing weight, but you know, we want to learn to eat properly and nourish our bodies and be able to sustain it for the long term. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is like, you know, I am 98% carnivore, and but I will now that I've got down to my goal weight, I will on occasion, and I openly admit this, I will occasionally have some plant matter, usually in the form of fruitage of some kind. Not all the time, once a month, maybe twice a month. And I'm completely fine with that. But what I don't do is, what I will not touch is any sort of processed food. So I will not eat grains. I will not eat refined sugar. I have nothing against the apples that grow in my backyard seasonally. I have nothing against, you know, an occasional plant. If someone invites me over for hospitality, I've gave you that example before. You know, I will eat what they've made, especially when they've tried to make it low carb or keto. You know, I appreciate their efforts. You know, and now I forgot where I was going with that. But well, no, I remember now. So the point is like, you know, if I personally was to do the sugar diet, I had a serious problem with sugar and carbohydrates, you know, prior to adopting this lifestyle. And I want to take off 15 more pounds. And if I was going to try and do that with the sugar diet, and even if I succeeded, it would be extremely difficult for me to go back to eating a proper human diet afterwards, because now I just crave sugar, you know, and then my mind, I would be like, well, I ate it and lost weight, so a little bit ain't gonna hurt, because your mind will play tricks on you then, like, oh, I took weight off eating the sugar diet, so sugar must not be the bad guy. And so in the end, even if I took 15 pounds off, in the end, I would probably not go back to eating a proper human diet that's all natural, what Father God and Mother Nature provided. I'd probably go back to eating man-made foods, and next thing I know, I would be back to, you know, 230, 240 pounds or something, and I would have undone all my progress. So, like, you know, this the reason I stick to this is because it's sustainable for me. I've improved my health. I've taken the weight off, and I'm done being a yo-yo dieter. So, like, for me, I won't even risk dipping my toes into the sugar diet, because I know for me, I know who I am, and I know for me, it would prove to be detrimental in the long term.
I'm an addict. There's no two ways about it. I know I'm an addict. Just like when I was addicted to tobacco, I was addicted to sugar too. And I know that if I start eating fruit, I'm going to be addicted all over again. Just like I know if I ever take another dip of Copenhagen, I'll be addicted to tobacco again. You know, you don't give a drug addict a drug thinking he can moderate. You don't give an alcoholic a beer thinking he can moderate. Can't do it. So you have to know your limitations. My limitations is I cannot have sugar.
I'm into that.
Yeah. Now, the right 56 says, I was carnivore. I was open to try carnivore for health. It's only a fat loss diet. You know, it can be. It can be an autoimmune reversing diet. It can be a weight loss diet. It can be just a elimination diet, and where you reintroduce certain things. And in your next comment, you say, "I'm thinking now, Paula Saladino may be right." So I have a lot of friends that throw a lot of shade at Paul Saladino, but actually I think the guy's pretty brilliant. His carnivore code book, before he became animal based and brought in the fruit and the honey, I mean, there is no book that exists that has the amount of in-depth research about the carnivore diet than that book. It's an amazing piece of work. And all his videos, he backs them up with studies. So I personally don't have a problem with Paul Saladino, save for one thing. And he now recommends that a human has minimum of 150 carbs a day, and preferentially 300 to 400. He said in a YouTube video. And I have nothing against fruit. I have nothing against honey. But I'm still like a student of Dr. Berry, where he says the proper human diet is between 0 carb carnivore and up to 100 grams of low carb veg per day. And where you are on that spectrum depends on your DNA, you as an individual, how you react to certain foods. I think you can combine the 100 gram or less proper human diet with the fruits that Paul Saladino is willing to have. Obviously, wouldn't leave you much room for many because those carbs add up quick. Now, Dr. Berry is anti-fruit, to an extent. He lets his kids eat fruit, and but I think they can be combined. So, but other individuals, they'll tell you they know themselves, and if they eat an apple, they're done. The sugar addiction comes back, and they eat an apple, and next thing you know, they're eating several more, and the next thing they know, they're busting into a Twix, and they just can't help it. And so for them, they absolutely cannot stay from it. But a lot of people are thriving on an animal-based diet, and they're thriving by following the admonitions of Paul Saladino. And so I will not throw shade at Paul Saladino. So
no, and okay, I'd like to comment first on that carnivore is only a fat loss diet. It's absolutely not true. Can you lose fat on it? Yes, absolutely. Most people do. The thing is, it's a way of life. It's not even a diet. It's how we eat for the rest of our lives. And it is a way of eating that heals our metabolism, puts everything in line the way God meant it to be, the way we were supposed to be the healthiest we can be. That's what it's all about. Now, as you become healthy, you lose the weight because that's what your body says you need to do. But it is a health diet. It is not a weight loss diet. And Paul Saladino, hey, I like him. I get a kick out of him. I subscribe to him. But what works for Paul Saladino works for Paul Saladino. It don't work for everybody. It won't work for most people. Most people don't go out and surf 3 hours every single morning of their lives. He's burning up a lot of energy, that he's getting. We don't do that.
That's a good point.
That's something you have to keep in mind when you look at how this person is doing this or this person is doing that. You got to look at that person's lifestyle. And like I said earlier in the beginning of this thing, every single one of these influencers I've seen that's promoting the sugar diet are skinny people. They're already slim, and they're talking about a weight loss diet. They're already slim. I don't get it. Right. It makes no sense to me.
So that's a good point about you talking about the energy expenditure that Paul Saladino does with all his surfing and everything. That's the same thing with Mark Bell. He's a power lifter. That guy works out like for hours and hours and hours, and then he records a YouTube video and he's out of breath because he's been working out all morning, And so, all that sugar he's consuming, he's putting it to use. That's different from someone who's morbidly obese and can't move. If they start guzzling sugar and they're not doing the output that someone like Mark Bell's doing, are they going to have the same results? Of course, we'll have to see that, because new fat,
and here's something else about Saladino. He's not only doing a high fructose diet, he is still eating carnivore. he's still eating a meat-centric, high-fat diet.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Nick went on to explain, and it says, my energy was seemingly burning out. Instead of running on gasoline, I felt like I was burning motor oil. Then I developed a rash along my flanks and my armpits. I thought it was a keto rash. Oxalate dumping, allergies. I didn't know. I asked around the carnivore spaces and was likely told it was oxalate dumping and to add in more salt and just push through. After 3 weeks or more, I added carbs. 3 days went by and the itching was fading. And by day 5, it was gone. Since then, I've gained some weight. And now 3.5 weeks ago, I started the sugar diet. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And you're not the first person that I've heard, initially. Oh, you said you're on it for 9 months though, right? Didn't he say he was on it for 9 months?
Yeah, I believe so.
It was either him or someone else. Okay. And, but I have heard that of people that they, we said before, carnivore diet isn't for everybody. We believe a meat-centric diet is for everybody, but a strict carnivore diet isn't necessarily for everybody. And there could be a number of reasons why you were experiencing those symptoms. And maybe we could talk about it more if you maybe come over and join the community, and we can talk about it.
I asked him to.
Yeah, if you're interested. And because we could devote a lot of time to what this might be that, and the explanations for why that is. But we're still interested in hearing how this sugar diet works for you. So
yeah, real curious.
I hope you see benefits from it, honestly. So, all right, that was me. Nick, eating lean protein isn't good for carnivore. Add fat. So yeah, we talk about our macros. All right. I'm having issues filling my diet with fat every morning, so I'm taking 1 apple or banana and adding it later in the day as a snack. That's fine. If that's, you could do that, or you could pack some meat and cheese if you wanted to try and stay low carb. But I don't see any harm in that. How is that working for you? That's the big question. How do you feel? Are you still feeling great? Are you losing weight? There's, like I said, there's a lot of people who do this animal-based diet and they do fantastic. So I've recently had some raw milk.
Ooh.
Yep. And I liked it. And I'm thinking about subscribing to the means I have locally of getting my hands on some, because it's not easy to do in this state, and actually making it more of a consistent part of my diet. So I got a half gallon, and I would drink 16 ounces every day, with my breakfast, and I enjoyed it very much. And I make Kiltz's ice cream with heavy cream. And sometimes, depending on what I add to it, the texture's kind of funny, and I'm wondering if a little milk might help the texture on that too. So just a little FYI. There's a lot of carnivores, they abstain from milk, but the animal-based people, they love their raw milk. So
yeah, I
don't drink
milk
milk
in years.
No milk for you guys?
I don't drink milk.
Not
I
interested.
make yogurt though.
Yeah.
I make my own yogurt,
Yes.
and I'll eat some cheese once in a while, but yeah, I just have no desire to drink milk.
Yeah. I got some milk, and I got some cream, from this, and it was raw from this farmer, and I can get raw cream, raw milk, and raw butter. And
you can also make yogurt out
Lucky
of cream.
fella.
And then I'd have to learn how to make yogurt. So
It's easy.
It's easy.
yeah. Lauren says, first time I caught a live, and I'm so happy I did. And we're happy to have you here, Lauren.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's good to have you. And we enjoy reading your comments. And I'll just take a moment to say that anybody watching right now, this is a roundtable discussion we have on Monday nights with room for 10. We have 4 here. So we've actually got 6 seats available. And if you wanted to come on screen and talk about the benefits of a carnivore meat-centric diet with us, you're more than welcome to. You just got to either become a member of the channel, which will cost you a little something, or since we don't care about that, go over to carnivoretalk.com and register for free, and you can get the link that way.
There
And,
wouldn't have been enough room earlier until I finished my 3 pounds of chuck roast. You gotta wait until I'm done eating.
a small amount of fruits don't ruin a day or diet. Also, better poo. Okay, all right, yeah, very good.
It would ruin my day.
Yep.
And I can.
For
and
those
I-
that can handle it, fantastic. I'm proud of you. That's great. Like I said, I'm a sugar addict. There's no way I can't do it.
I do have to say this. Last night I did cheat a little bit with my roast. The wife, there's this Japanese male that I love because it's like practically everything there's no artificial nonsense in there. So I put a little bit on my roast last night, and I got the same effect I did with that jalapeno beef stick. It was
Hey, Jeff,
not even 30 minutes later. I was, all night.
Well, and that's a good thing because now you know.
Yep.
That's the best thing about making mistakes is learning from them.
Oh, can't. Well, I just trying to introduce something into my life and can't do it anymore.
I tried it 6 months into carnivore. I ate some chili. And as much as I love chili, especially my chili, it'll never happen again.
Yep.
Because I know what it did to me.
Yeah, some people, they benefit from adding a little carbs to you, and you know what? Honestly, if you have issues with insulin resistant, insulin sensitive, if you wanted to be a little more insulin sensitive, it's probably good to have some once in a while. So a carnivore diet, carnivore centric diet, and occasionally some fruit will make you insulin sensitive, and that's probably what's really ideal for most people. But again, people thrive just fine on a carnivore diet that's devoid of all carbohydrates. Nick does say yes, it was 9 months on carnivore before the symptoms started. So that's also curious too, because I've heard of oxalate dumping happening like a year or two after starting a carnivore diet, but I do think that's kind of rare. But I wouldn't deny that as a possibility. Papa Carnivore. Papa Carnivore is another one of those that are everywhere. So on every live stream that I jump in throughout the week, usually you can find Papa Carnivore. Oftentimes Rick as well, Charger Mopar. And so welcome. And there's Target Prime Rib. I saw him today a couple times. I think I saw you over at Kilt's, and I saw you in Dr. Barry's Monday Night Live too before I had to bail out and come get this started.
Don't forget Sunday. He was on Sunday.
Oh yeah, Sunday. Oh, you were on that barbecue pit thing.
Well, yeah, but that's right. But Thomas was with Mitch. Old guy Carnivore.
Oh yeah, was it? Oh no, it might have been. Mitch was on Mitch's channel. I probably listened. That was probably Monday. I probably listened to that. No, today is Monday. No,
that was on Sunday. It was on Sunday.
Today is Monday. I must have been sitting around. I must have just fired him up then, because usually if I catch Mitch, I'm usually driving to work or to a job, and I put on YouTube and I usually listen to YouTube. So, but oftentimes that's the time where Mitch is on, and so I'll put on Mitch and listen, and then I'll throw in a chat and try and read something like at a red light, because I want to keep my eyes on the road. Yeah.
Speaking of Mitch, has your video not popped up yet?
My video?
Yeah.
Which video?
Didn't you do an interview with Mitch?
No, I did not.
I thought you did.
No, I haven't. I've actually never spoken with Mitch, not yet.
So okay. I'll be with Mitch next week.
So I was
cool.
I was scheduled to do a video. I had scheduled to do a video with Dave Mack.
Oh, Dave Mack. Dave Mack. Okay.
Guess who Dave's first interview was?
You.
Oh, was it really you?
That is so cool. I got to look that one up.
So yeah, Dave Mack was going to interview me, but then the time that we scheduled for that interview is the day where I was tearing out the shower and the ceiling fell on me.
Okay.
And it broke my glasses, and I had a gash on my head, and the skin was cut right here, which is healing somewhat okay. I don't even know if this will
You look good.
Yeah. But
Yep.
yeah, it's healing up. And so I had to cancel because I look like a bloody mess. I actually came home and I fell asleep in my recliner and slept through the time that we were supposed to start. And then when my wife and son came home, apparently it started bleeding again because they kind of screamed and woke me. Oh my God, what happened to you? Woke me up, and then I had to go clean all the blood up again.
You could have said that you were attacked by a whole herd of vegetarians, and you had to.
There you go.
A herd of vegetarians.
Attacked by a duck.
That's funny. All right. Mineral disturbance, magnesium. That's all going to be possibilities here. You mentioned oxalate dumping and allergies. Okay. It says Brother Thomas. That must be his real name. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you don't know Thomas?
I just know people by their handles.
Oh, okay.
So if you didn't have Rick in parentheses, you would just be Charger Mopar.
Yeah.
Nick says, I want to say also that I don't know if my low energy and rash was caused by carnivore or not. I also can't necessarily say that adding the carbs got rid of the rash. No way to know. And yeah, and that's true. There's after 9 months, no, something else was going on, and it's just it would take some investigation to really try and pinpoint what that was. Is that Rick the Carnivore Outlaw, the most dangerous man on YouTube? That it is. Yeah, he hopped on here to sabotage our program.
Well, at least I'm not trolling the channel.
Yeah. Peter's here. Okay, yeah. All right. Jiffy says, Rick is right. Wild chickens are fine. My meme and I fed and took care of chickens. My mom and I.
Your grandma.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe. Yeah. My mama. Okay. Yeah. We fed them grub worms, grass, and God knows what. They were wonderful. Killing them ain't for the weak.
Don't bother me none.
Nope.
Those of you that are used to killing animals, that's that power to you. Because I was the other day I let my dog out. I didn't let my wife let her out. And usually she looks out the window, she gets all amped up to chase a squirrel. We let her out, and the squirrel usually makes it up a tree. And we're like, yeah, you're never going to catch a squirrel. Well, we must have some new ones this year that aren't used to her. So she ran out, and the squirrel's like, ee, and runs and tries to go up a tree, but it wasn't quick enough. My dog grabbed it by the tail, yanked that thing off the tree, swung it around a bit, and injured it. And then she was playing with it. So like it would sit there and hyperventilate, and then it would try and, it was obviously injured. It would try and crawl away, and the dog would play with it some more. And so I let her play with this for like 20 minutes, And then,
You're mean.
I'm like, all right, well, I gotta put this thing out of its misery. So I had a shovel because it tried to crawl in the neighbor's yard, and so I scooped it up and tossed it back into my yard so the dog wouldn't leave the yard. So I take the shovel, and I'm like, oh, slam down, and I figure I'm gonna try and chop off his head or something, So I'm like, go to slam it down, and it doesn't. It obviously it breaks its neck, but then its back of its body is like flopping, and I'm like, oh my god,
it's just nerves, nerves.
Yeah, they do that.
So then I had to take it, stand back, and I slammed it down and hit it on its head really hard, and then that was it. It shut off after that, and it was just an awful feeling. It was an awful feeling. And then my dog, it's kind of funny because then she's looking at it, and she's like, she looks at me and she starts barking at me. Like she's mad. She's like, that was my toy.
That was her toy.
That was my toy. What'd you do?
She broke her toy.
I've never had my dog have a fit like this. She was like, it's not fun anymore. It's not moving anymore.
My dog would have ate it.
Oh, she was so upset.
My dog will chase these cottontails down and catch them, and she'll eat them.
Oh, all right. The sugar diet sounds ludicrous, no doubt. Oh yeah, that's why we were inspired to talk about it tonight. It definitely.
Well, just
I
think what Nick's referring to is that it just sounds ludicrous.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. But Nick does sound like he's taking a balanced approach to it, not
Yes,
long term,
absolutely.
just here and so that's fine. There's some other influencers with YouTube channels that were carnivore keto that are now doing the sugar diet, and
Ew.
they're talking about, like, they're kind of impressed with their results so far. So that's kind of interesting. I still think that it's a quick fix, but I still think that it's not something that you would want to entertain long term at all.
Nothing
All right.
good comes easy.
Right. I think I'm going to do the sugar diet so I can go back to full blown diabetes.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. That's one of the
Get it
concerns
done
we
over
brought
with.
up. Yeah, that's one of the concerns that we brought up, is that someone who's insulin resistant, metabolically unhealthy, pre-diabetic, diabetic, this could be some serious bad news. Sugar diet is a irresponsible recommendation, especially for a diabetic like me. According to my CGM, sugar raises my sugars, plain and simple. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
pretty much common sense. And I was thinking, another thought that I come to mind, and when you mentioned a video, I have a video on the sugar diet that's going to be coming out soon, separate from this. And but one of the things that I say in that is, remember back in the 50s or 50 years ago when the sugar industry paid off scientists to point the finger at meat and fat?
Harvard
Yeah.
paid off the Harvard scientists, professors.
Yep.
This last 2 weeks, as this sugar diet has just like infiltrated my feeds on social media, and I'm watching these people talk about it, I feel like almost as if it's like the sugar industry is planting these influencers to muddy the waters, and to muddy up the facts about proper nutrition and stuff like that.
You mean they're paid influencers by the sugar industry?
I'm not. I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but wouldn't
Oh,
that be
okay.
something? Oh, when I see videos, of this girl, Freely the banana girl, she's like standing out in nature with like hardly any clothes on, and she's got this fruit, and she's telling you that the fruit is not sweet enough because of what man has done damage to the earth. The fruits aren't sweet enough as they are, and so she takes this cane sugar that she calls sun crystals, and she sprinkles it all over her watermelon and fruit, and that will make it more nutritious, and then eats it on. I'm just like, I mean, that's some BS, man.
Well, and obviously somebody that has no idea what they're talking about, simply because man has made fruit to be more sweet, more addictive.
Right. Yeah, it's sweeter than it had been in the past.
I
But
was
she
just
says
looking at a
it's
picture.
not sweet enough. She says it's not sweet enough because people pick it before it's ripe.
Well, there's truth to that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only way they can feed the masses.
Mm-hmm.
But fruit back in the day was really not that good to eat.
Yeah, that's true. So stay clear of any carbs. And I totally get that. I'm just trying to get there faster. My opinion is that getting the extra weight off my body is primary concern for my health. Obesity is the number one cause of chronic disease. And if this is a weight loss hack that works for you, and then you return to something nutritious afterwards, I just keep us informed. Yes, I did, Jiffy. Thank you. That's the coffee comment here. Some days I'll get better at this and not just click on everything.
Mm-hmm.
The sugar diet would be a great way to lose both your feet and legs. Yeah.
Now you're talking weight loss.
Yeah. That's how you lose weight. Yep. Remove the feet, remove the legs. There's the weight. There you go.
He already lost his toes.
Yeah. All right. Get you a good steak with that coffee. Wink, wink. They're flirting in the chat. Sorry for putting that on the screen. All right. Health begins in the legs. That's a good point. So it's a good exercise. That's what I heard. In fact, I'll go back to that. I hear that a lot now is, work out your legs. So I was talking to a doctor about triglycerides and they said, work out your legs, because if you keep your legs healthy, then you're healthy. And then as soon as your legs lose strength and you can't keep your balance and you can't walk anymore, then the rest of it starts to follow after. So focusing on legs is definitely recommended by several doctors. The worst thing you give a sugar addict is sugar. Yes, absolutely. If that happens and I struggle with sugar cravings once I lose the weight, I would absolutely stop back in your chat sometime and tell you. Yes, please do. Absolutely. And that's what I think would happen to me is I would struggle. I work so hard to get off of sugar, like a drug.
Mm-hmm.
We often say that sugar is poison, and that might not be 100% fair, but it certainly can be poison, and it's certainly a drug. They say it's even more addictive than a lot of your addictive substances out there, and that's another reason why I would really struggle with this. Papa Carnivore making me hungry. Had a T-bone steak with salt and butter for dinner tonight. I'll start skipping some of these. So, yeah, Meathead says, Nick, join Carnivore Talk message board. Yes, we talk all throughout the week there, Sunday through Monday. And it's a topical community where everything's organized by subject, almost kind of like emails, and then all the replies are underneath it. And so, yeah, we'd welcome you. And he says he found it. All right. Catching up here. A lot of chat activity today, too. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think it is a health optimization diet. No, not diet is a way to a better life. Yes. Yeah, a carnivore-centric diet for sure. Yeah, that's why, as Jeff Geezy says, we hate calling it a diet and should refer to it as a lifestyle. And ironically, the original definition of diet was your lifestyle, your pattern of eating. And over the years, because definitions change over time, over the years, the diet has come to mean something you do temporarily, like a weight loss hack to take off the pounds, and not something that you're going to stick with. So that's like a secondary definition of diet that's now become, and today it's in most people's minds, that's the primary definition of diet. But no, we definitely think of diet. When we talk about diet, we're talking about that pattern of eating that we would hopefully practice for life because we care about our health. So Target Prime Rib, you're right on target. All right. My 30-year-old son loves Paul Saladino and does eat meat based with fruit and honey, but he's young and super healthy. I'm older and a former type 2 diabetic. Yeah, and that'll make all the difference too. So when you're young, you can get away with a lot of things. I mean, when I was young, I could live on ramen noodles and Taco Bell and Burger King and,
Yeah, we were bulletproof back then.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. And that doesn't last. So you say he's 30 now. Yeah, he's probably near the tail end of that. And then so I think it was probably about my mid 30s when, early to mid 30s when I could no longer really hold it together like that. So, and yeah, that's being the type 2 diabetic. That's another thing too, is like, if you're like Paul Saladino and you're eating 300-400 calories of carbs in the form of fruit and honey, that has to be dangerous. That has to be there. I mean, you're still gonna probably depend on insulin. I don't have diabetes, so I don't know I think I have a good idea about it, but I still think that would be an issue. Kitchen Witch, been great hanging out with you guys. Thank you, and thank you. So thank you for being here. And don't mix it with a meal. And saying goodbye. I believe I have to be strict carnivore to bring my A1C down and improve my health and life. As of today, I can't predict my future, but I'm not in the future or the past. I am here now. And I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. So, I tried all kinds of diets. This is what works, and so now this is home. This is where I'm going to stay. This is a lifestyle here. Lots of fat people putting unedited videos out directly on YouTube. Small channels. You never heard of them before, just people documenting. And there's a lot of YouTube going on. That's actually true. I get so many people popping up in my feed that and they are there. I get recommended a lot of small channels, and that's good. I like to try and throw small channel support. You know why? Because we're a small channel too. So, all right. Clarify now. Target Rib is a proud carnivore. Papa Carnivore is getting results from his blood test this week. I haven't got tested in a year and a half. I'm sure I'll get another lecture about my high LDL. Yeah. I just had my lipid panel done last week. My triglycerides, which used to be up at almost 3,000, were down to 222. My LDL, which was 200, is 300. And I figure that's a couple of reasons. One, the triglycerides are more associated with very low density lipoproteins. So this could imply that I'm now having the bigger, fluffier kind. And two, went through a stint for a month where I discovered butter bites. and I was eating those like crazy. You guys make butter bites?
Nope.
I haven't.
Never had them. I haven't even tried them.
Yeah.
I don't even have butter anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of like, people call it carnivore candy, and I can understand why. So, yeah, you basically put the butter in a pan and bring it to a boil, and after it boils for so long, the bubbles will turn brown. Then you can pour it in a silicone, brown butter. Then you can pour it in a silicone tray and let it cool in the fridge or the freezer. When you pop them out, the brown settles to one side, so they're brown on one side and kind of a little darker than normal butter on the other. And some people might throw some stevia in there before they do or whatnot, and they'll bite them so if you're trying to increase your fat macros, butter bites is one way to do it. But then what I found is that they can become addicting, and so your next thing you know, you eat a couple butter bites, you go to do something, you're like, man, that was good, and you go back and you grab some more butter bites, and there can be a control issue there. So
it's the caramelization.
Right.
It is.
Yeah. So Jiffy, I want you to get the A1C down. My Barry's best friend has had that problem for years. Carnivore is the way to do it. If you're type 2, the carnivore will help that for sure. I am Jiffy. That is why I have my channel, to let people know my journey, and now I'm improving every day. I'm going to write that down. Target Prime Rib.
Mm-hmm.
Channel. I may have seen it, but it doesn't ring a bell, so I'm going to go check that out. So thanks for being here. I'll go check out and see what you're publishing. And all right, pituitary gland removed. Okay, there's a lot of this side conversation going on. All right. So there's a live tomorrow of some kind. Papa Carnivore had some ice cream 2 weeks ago and had a stomachache and diarrhea. Oh, is that like was that like some random ice cream, like some naughty ice cream, or was that like carnivore ice cream or Kiltz's ice cream? I'm just curious.
Now, I've had Kiltz's ice cream. It don't bother me none.
Yeah, I do all right.
Meathead mentioned, going off track a little bit with the mayonnaise. Now this here reminds me, Saturday, we had some family come into town, and we went to a swap meet. And afterwards, we went to eat. Well, we went to this place called Boiling Cajun, and they got seafood. So you can get just about anything you want there, but their specialty is boiled food. You know, crab, shrimp, crawfish, whatever. And so that's what I always get. And then they have these sauces, and common sauce is like a garlic butter sauce. You can dip the food in. I told them to bring me the Cajun sauce, and on there they have the different levels of heat. And I told the gal, she says, "What level you on?" I says, "Hit me with your best shot, darling." And she says, "You want the 10 times heat?" And I says, "Yeah, you can't burn me out. Many have tried. Go ahead." I said, "Bring me your best." And I will admit, that's the first place that has ever taken me to my limit. I hit my limit. I still enjoyed it. I still ate it, but I hit my limit. And one little bit hotter, and I wouldn't have been able to eat it, but it was good. And then about 3-4 hours later, it hit me. And about the time I was going to bed, and my belly had been a little upset, and then the runs hit me, and so yeah, I can't be doing that no more. My belly did not like it, and I've always been cast iron. I've always been able to take the hottest stuff around, and
I used to be able to eat.
Over.
I used to be able to eat anything. There was nothing I couldn't eat. You know,
the guys at work were always trying to burn me out, and they never could. But I'm burned out now. I'm done.
Yeah. So they're talking about Mitch's Live. They interviewed with Dave, Carey, John Laspina. And yes, I do see you on the Kiltses all the time. And he says he interviewed with Dave, Matt, Carey Man, Adam Lacey, Nia Nova, Cindy DiManchi, Carnivore Teacher, Carnivore Transformer, Dante Frigno, and Old Guy Carnivore. There's a lot of influencers here in this comment. How about you guys go ahead and talk about what you like about some of these individuals? I have to run to the restroom, so I'm going to remove myself from the stage, and I'll be back in a couple minutes.
Yeah, well, Target Prime Rib, you're just bragging now. No, that's great. I've done 2 interviews with Dave Mack. I've done one with Carey Man, and then I've done one with Bob. All good guys. Some of these I don't recognize the names.
For me, I'm a hot commodity, so I just try to keep a low profile.
Yeah, you're hot, all right.
Well, I've been interviewed by Dave Mack. I was his first. Adam Lacey, the what does he call his channel? Carnivore Today interviewed me. Nia Nova, I've been on her channel many times when she used to have the Carnivore Mastermind. And then Cindy, she hasn't interviewed me yet. John did interview me. I think I was one of his first. Carnivore Transformer, I don't recognize that one. And Ferrigno, he's never interviewed me. And Old Guy Carnivore, that'll be this Sunday. I've been on his thing a couple times, but this will be the first interview he does of me.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty good. For some reason, Carey never interviewed me, although I was on his 12-hour and 24-hour live stream. And now I even got... Huh?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said, now I even got somebody imitating Carey on my channel. So that's even
really
more fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a bot that was pretending to be Carey.
You know what? They were just haranguing us and trying to dissuade people from the carnivore diet trolling. they were trolling Rick because of some of his comments he made and just giving him a hard time, and Rick made the best of it. They were giving him lemons, and he's like, okay, I'll make some lemonade, I'm thirsty.
Well, I've had trolls come against me for comments I've made either on Carey's, well, twice now it's happened. I've got one that's over 200 comments in one post that I made when Carey was interviewing Dr. Ovadia. And I went on there and I made mention of the fact that Carnivore reversed my atrial fibrillation. And I'm going to tell you what, I got called out on that. There's over 200, maybe up to 230 or 260 different comments on that one post I made. And so far, here in the last couple of months, I haven't gotten any notifications in my email about it. But that was a conversation that was going on a long time. A lot of people trolling me on that, just flat calling me a liar and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, hey, call me a liar all you want, but I know what the truth is. Been there, done that. And anybody wants to go talk, I'll give you the phone number to my cardiologist, and he'll tell you exactly what happened.
You know, I'm not trying to change the subject, but something that got me to thinking when you mentioned his 12-hour and Carrie's 12-hour and 24-hour live. You know, if he really wanted to make money, he should have like Jerry Lewis used to have telethon. Whatever happened once he retired or passed away, that they don't do muscular dystrophy telethons anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I mean, it's not like the disease is cured; it's gone away. You still got kids with that disease. So here's what I'm thinking with Carrie, and this is going to be documented now, so it's my idea. So he can get me a steak or something. I don't care, but he could do a telethon and see how long he could do it, like Jerry Lewis did, and raise money for his film.
That's what the 24-hour live was for.
Yeah.
I say we do a 48-hour.
That's an idea. I'm sure he could do it. I know he wants to get that movie together.
Yeah. I didn't mean to. I'm not trying to.
Yeah. The only thing I was making comments about it is that after it's taken so long, I think when the carnivore trend starts to go down, his movie may not get the reach that he thinks he's going to get. So I told everybody, be prepared if it bombs and don't be disappointed, because I'm afraid a lot of people will just get upset. Oh, it didn't succeed. And then they're just going to give up and say, oh, this carnivore thing's no good. But I was trying to tell him.
Supposedly he's in the final stages of it now, in the editing portion of it.
Yeah, it's going to be probably. I don't expect to see it before next year.
Right.
Now, Saladino's outfit's coming out with a movie too. I just got the trailer for it today.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but have you seen the trailer for the one called Animal?
Yes.
That's the one.
Barry was pushing it.
Yeah, Dr. Barry was pushing it. Yeah.
See, I keep such a low profile. I don't know about any of this stuff.
No, I could probably play that one. Let me see if I can't put it on the screen. It's only 1 minute long.
No copyright infringement.
Who cares? Share. Is it share screen? Share screen. And all right, there it is here. There we go.
We're too good of hunters. We came out of the trees not to eat the grass,
Can you hear it?
but to eat the grass.
Yes.
Meat is without question the most nutrient-dense food that human beings can eat.
We're all getting sick. How can an ancient diet cause a new disease? And everything made sense at that point. We're carnivores, but we're not living as carnivores.
When we replace meat with grains, we get sicker and fatter.
How did we lose our humanity? What's taken us off track?
There's only one set of facts. We are just better designed and more efficient at getting nutrition from meat.
What you're putting in your mouth, it's either leading to health or harm.
We should be nourishing our bodies with the right foods and eating more.
Gotta remember where we came from and what our food should be.
It will change your life.
Oh wow!
Yeah, does that look good or what?
Yeah.
In
I can't
theaters?
wait to see that.
No big deal.
So I just thought it's kind of interesting is whoever it is behind that, They beat Carrie to the punch.
Oh yeah.
Well, you look at who. I mean, you look at how big these doctors are.
Mm,
You got three of the biggest influencers right there.
Yep.
yeah.
It's like
Hopefully,
Goliath versus David
yeah.
versus Goliath.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and no, so like, you know, I'm actually looking forward to Carrie's documentary too. And he does interview Kiltz and Dr. Barry and Sean Baker and all those same doctors and influencers. You
Oh.
know, they're in his film too, and they fully support his film too. And I'm sure it'll be good.
I think the highlight of Carrie's is the people that he's following, like Bill Knott.
Right.
That's going to be the highlight because, and then Jeff, you know, Russ's friend, what was it? Jeff DeProsperous, the one that had cancer and died. But, you know, there's several stories in there. They make a big deal about the Maggie lady, and hey, that's fine too. But, you know, to me, it's no big deal. Living carnivore most of your life is not a big deal.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I don't know what you guys talked about here when we had this up on the screen, but I'm familiar with Dave Mack, Carrie Mann, a little bit of Adam Lacey. I may have seen one Adam Lacey video ever.
Carnivore Today.
Yeah. I think I've seen I literally think I've seen one video of his.
He interviewed me.
Nia Nova. I've heard of her. But I think I saw her on someone else's live, I think. I've never heard of Cindy DiManchi.
Yeah, she's been out there. She hangs out sometimes with Dustin. You know, what is his channel? Keto Simple, and then also Chris Cooking Nashville. That group.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Carnivore Teacher. I'm familiar with him.
Yes.
John Laspina.
Yeah. In fact, I bet you if we threw him a line, he'd probably like coming on here.
Oh yeah.
And, Carnivore Transformer. I never heard of Carnivore Transformer. And then Dante Ferrigno, I'm familiar with him, and Old Guy Carnivore. Obviously, we're all familiar with Mitch. So,
Mitch, yeah.
All right. Okay. Jiffy already split. Good night. She said her dog hates dead things. She only likes them when they move. That goes back to my dog story. I remember that. Yeah, a lot of goodbyes here. I wonder if my body would have responded to a glucose tolerance test when I was carnivore for long periods of time. Yeah, that's good. That would have been interesting to know. Papa Carnivore, you're the reason I have a pat of cold butter with my burger patties and steaks.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Let's see here. If my blood biomarkers improve, but you don't lose weight, are you healthier? Is your disease risk less? This is like the health at any size idea. So that I'm asking. I'm rereading that in my head. I would say yes. If your blood markers improve, you are healthier. If you're familiar with Dr. Kiltz or in his community, he doesn't think that that fat in itself is necessarily a bad thing, you know, and you know, it's more comes down to, you know, the plant toxins and the damage that you do with the things that you put in your body, and the principle behind that is you know, like in the winter or in the harvest season, you might have put on some weight and that would prepare you for the winter. And that weight wasn't necessarily a bad thing. That would help you survive the winter. And so I guess it depends on how much weight we're talking, you know. So, you know, if you're 500 pounds, I'm going to have a hard time believing that all your blood markers are going to be fine. You know,
exactly.
That wouldn't be healthy. I mean, especially, you know, on your heart carrying around all that weight, kidneys having to filter all that blood through all that mass, you know. So depends on how overweight we're talking. I think having some weight is just fine, and if your blood markers are fine. But obviously, you get to a point where, yes, you are too big to be healthy.
Okay. Well, the thing is, We say it's a diet that's all about your health, but at the same time, we also call it a weight optimization diet. So generally, your weight will optimize itself to where it needs to be. Your body is smarter than you are, and it will put you where you need to be. And you can look at all the influencers out there, and I appreciate the fact that you will see normal, natural people who still appear to be overweight. Now, if you see them before they started versus how they are now, you see they lost a lot of weight. But not all of them are skinny as a rail. A lot of them still are packing some pounds. Does that mean they're still not healthy because they still have some weight on? No. They are healthier than they were, and they're getting better as time goes on. So are they at less risk for disease? Absolutely. Are they still fat? Yeah, to some extent, yes, they are. Their body mass index may not be where it needs, where the medical community thinks it needs to be, but they're definitely healthier. There's no doubt about it.
Well, see, it took us decades to wreck our bodies. It's not gonna the healing, the weight loss. Like I said, carnivore is a health journey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to happen overnight. And just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're healthy.
Nope.
And just because you're overweight doesn't mean you're sick. That's a stigma that's been imposed upon us, or it's been ingrained in us by government, by schools, by a lot of things. And you gotta do however the diet makes you feel. Just because, like, I'm still overweight, I feel. Am I pushing to, am I striving to hit my goal weight? Well, when my body says, okay, you're ready to go, we're going to drop a few more pounds this week, and then we'll sit out for another 2 months and wait. My body, like I told you guys, my body's smarter than my cardiologist. And my body will decide when it's ready to stop losing weight, start putting on muscle. So that's my, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, like, well, let's take an example of someone who's skinny and is type 2 diabetic, because that exists. Diabetes doesn't. Someone doesn't necessarily have to be obese to have diabetes. And they can go on a proper human diet, and when they go on a proper human diet, their A1C comes down from something astronomical high, comes down to that 5.7 or less, or 5.6 or less. Puts them in the non-diabetic stage. They can get off their medications. Their triglycerides may have been super high. Those come down to an ideal range. Their HDL may have been really low. Now their HDL goes up into, so that ratio is really nice, and they didn't shed a single pound. Are they healthier? Yeah, absolutely they are. So, and I do like the comments about the weight optimization too. So, like, I took off 60-ish pounds, 232 to 175. I've been hovering around 178 lately. And, and I stopped losing weight on purpose because I had a health scare. But, I think I could easily go down to 160 and be fine. I have the guy that works for me. He's 6'1" and like 140.
Wow.
Pencil thin. I don't think so theoretically I can match his weight, but I just don't think I'm going to look good with that kind of weight. So, weight optimization, is definitely a key. If I want to push beyond optimal, then I'm probably going to have to hit the gym and do the sugar diet and get shredded. Or something. I it gets to a point where, if you want to go beyond what your body says is optimal, you got to really work for it, and that's okay, if you want to do that. Moving on, talking about butter again. And on the sugar diet, if you lose fat and body weight, but HbA1c and triglycerides elevate, are you less healthy? Did disease risk go up? Your body fat, but labs on paper got worse. I would say yes. I mean, that's the opposite of that. If you go on a sugar diet and your A1C flies through the roof, your triglycerides go up, 300-400. That technically does mean you're less healthy because you enter that diabetic profile. Or pre-diabetic profile, depending on where that A1C is, and that's supposed to be better predictor of risk for cardiovascular disease is that HDL to triglyceride ratio. So if those triglycerides are going up, that ratio is getting worse, and you're technically more at risk. Now, of course, risk is a relative term. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Why is it at risk? You could be at a higher risk, live the rest of your life with no cardiovascular issues, even though you were at higher risk the whole time, so, take that with a grain of salt or with a grain of sugar.
But
but no, like generally speaking, if your blood markers got worse, but you didn't gain any weight, you are technically getting, less healthy. And then that's everything. That's even my kidney numbers. Like if your kidney, I got kidney disease. If I could be losing weight, but if my kidney numbers continue to decline, I'm technically getting less healthy. At least my kidneys are. Go ahead, Kurt.
I wasn't so much taking into consideration with the high A1C when I made my answer.
Mm-hmm.
I was more concerned with the flood of triglycerides. Like when you first start carnivore, and I haven't done a blood test in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So my triglycerides slowly got better, but I mean, it wasn't, I compared myself to like people that I've seen on YouTube, and it's like, how I don't understand how they can get their triglycerides so low so fast. But again, everybody's different. We're each our own. But when you eat red meat, your red blood cell count goes up. Your red blood cells last longer. And when your body is releasing all this stored up fat, I don't know about raising A1C. But I know that your body will be flooded with triglycerides, and you know that for a fact, Bob.
Yes, in my case, that is true. So when your body fat is solid triglyceride, and when you lose weight, that dissolves and enters your bloodstream to be used as energy. Now, most people see their trigs go down who are normally healthy. And that's because they become fat adapted. Those trigs are broken down, used up as energy, sent into the cells, turned into ketones, that kind of thing. In my case, my triglycerides went through the roof, and that's because I had a medical condition that I have a video about. So it has to do with my kidney disease. So mine have come down, and it took years to come down. Most people see theirs drop like a rock. If yours go up some while you're actively losing weight, I'm not really concerned anymore, because while you're losing weight, your lipid panel could be all over the place. So when your weight's stable for at least a couple months, then it'd be safer to get a lipid panel and be able to trust those numbers, because it's the same thing with LDL. My LDL skyrocketed. I started losing weight, went from 109 up to like 500. But when I became weight stable, it came down to 200, but that's because it's stored in the adipose tissue, and it goes up. And there is the fact that when you're eating more saturated fat, your body will produce more cholesterol. But of course, we don't see that as a bad thing. So yeah, so lipid panels can be funny, especially during active weight loss. But that's exactly what's going on. If triglycerides go up while you're losing weight on a carnivore diet, it's not because of the diet per se. It's because you are losing weight, and that's where the trigs are coming from. They were already on you. They're just now in your bloodstream. All right, carnivore transformer is Graham Rick. So I wrote that down, carnivore transformer. I'm going to check that out. Target Prime Rib loves the name Meathead. Nick wants to know, why do you think the carnivore trend is going down? That's a question for you, Rick.
Well, it's like anything else. You know, everything has its sort of time in the sun. And I think when this whole Saladino thing started, and then Sean Baker, and then you had, what was the, who's the podcaster that interviewed Sean Baker, and then it really started taking
Joe
off?
Rogan?
Joe Rogan, that's the one, which is one of the people I've never ever actually watched. But I think what'll happen is you get that burnout, because the reality is that the vast majority of people are not going to ever be on the carnivore diet. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how many documentaries they make and how many positive ideas they have. But I would estimate at the very most, maybe 15% of the population would ever try carnivore. And I think out of that, maybe only 2 or 3% will go with it for the rest of their life. So the fact is, the carnivore diet is just, it's a trend, because you see these doctors, you see these influencers, they're in good shape. You have people that have lost weight, you have people that have gotten healthy, and it really stimulates a lot of interest. And then once they try the diet, you know, maybe they're expecting too much. They expect that all their problems are going to go away and they're going to lose weight instantly and they're going to get in good shape. They're going to look like Dr. Chafee or Dr. Baker or any of these other people. And they don't realize that some of them are going to end up looking like me. You're going to be skinny. You're going to be a quack. You'll feel good, but you're not going to be the kind of person that everybody wants to be. I don't think there's too many people out there that want to be another Rick. But the thing is, if they understand the limitations of the carnivore diet, I think if they go into it without expecting miracles, they're going to be more likely to try it. And the thing is, I come out there telling people, it's like, look, I've been doing this for my whole life, basically, and I'm still here. And I tried to get a heart attack. I tried to do it wrong. And I ended up doing it the way that a lot of people are suggesting. I ate as much fat as I could, as much meat as I could. I didn't eat the healthy fruits and vegetables because I didn't want any part of that. And you can see what it did to me. I'm almost 57. I'll be 57 like next week. And I don't have any gray hair. I got lots of energy. I work all the time physically. You know, people I know are constantly sick and they have aches and pains and they don't have energy and they have to get their energy drink and they have to get their snacks and all the other stuff. But for me, it's like, you know, but I still think that the trend will come out. It goes up and now it's on the kind of like the downslide. Of course, the sugar diet, that's been the same way. The grapefruit diet, whatever. There's always South Beach diet, all these diets that come out, they follow the way up and then they go down. The difference that I tell people is with the carnivore diet, even though the YouTubers and influencers and all that trend will decrease, the carnivore diet itself never goes away. It's been around for as long as humans have been around. And I think that if you really understand this, then you'll know that it has a lot of benefits. And again, for people like me, they can make fun of me all they want. The vegans can tell me how unhealthy I look. They can tell me, well, you're too skinny. All these other nonsense things. It's like, look, I enjoy the diet. It works for me. And again, they say, Rick, you're a hypocrite. You give people fruits and vegetables that you grow. And I try to tell them, like Bob is saying, I'm not anti-plant at all. I think that people should learn how to garden. I think that if you can eat fruits and vegetables and they don't hurt you, you should eat them, but only local. And the thing is, on my diet, I've told everyone for years since I was a teenager, I said, look, it's not that I don't want to eat plants. I just don't want to eat any commodity crop. I don't want to eat anything that's transported long distances. If I'm going to eat a fruit or vegetable, I'm going to pick it locally. I'm going to prepare it myself, and that's it. And on my diet, on Rick's heart attack diet, you don't eat leaves, stems, roots, or seeds. None of those things I will ever eat. You want to eat fruit? Go ahead and eat fruit. But the thing is, for me, that's it, especially seeds. And think about it. What is most of the food that the standard American diet is based on, made
Seeds.
from? Seeds.
Yep.
Seeds are the most defended part of the plant. And this is the one thing that Paul Saladino, I have always respected him for saying this, that seeds are the one part of the plant you don't want to eat. The only exception I would have would be coconuts, because coconuts, although they are seeds, they're defended mechanically. They're not defended by chemistry. But all other seeds are defended by chemistry, because if you think about it, a coconut is not an edible seed. It falls in the water, it floats, and it grows into a palm tree. But think about all the other fruits that have seeds, like apples and oranges and all that. When the animal eats the fruit, if they eat the seeds, what happens to the tree? It goes extinct. But if the seeds are toxic and the animal cannot digest it, it has anti-nutrients and other things in it that prevent the seeds from being digested, what happens? They eat the fruit, they create poop, and then when they poop somewhere, wherever they're going to go, the seeds are still there, or at least some of them are still there. And now you have seeds with fertilizer ready to grow. And that's the thing. And again, with fruits and vegetables, as mentioned here, all the natural fruits are small. They tend to be fibrous. They're not that sweet, because any of those sweet fruits that humans have bred are susceptible to insects, and they will be wiped out in the wild. So that's why the wild fruits tend to be sour, astringent, or whatever. And the other thing about fruits is that wild fruits are completely inedible until they fully ripen. And that's another thing that you have to understand. So again, if you're thinking of an ancient human, what is the most reliable source of food? It would be meat, whatever form, animals, fish, reptiles, whatever you have, that's a meat. And then if you have nothing else to eat and they're in season, grab yourself a fruit. There's nothing wrong with that. And maybe some people can eat fermented vegetables. You can do that too. I have a friend that's an ex-vegan. He could not go on the carnivore diet. It wrecked him. He stuck with it for months and just got sicker and sicker. I said, look, why not take the best of the carnivore diet and take some of your plant-based diet and put it together? And that's what he did. So he went on the meat-based keto diet almost 2 years now, doing absolutely fantastic. The only bad thing is his girlfriend hates him because now he chases her around, and she's vegan, and it's like a Papa carnivore that tripled his testosterone on the carnivore diet. I think the same thing has happened to him. Also, it made his hair grow more on his arms and body. So the girlfriend doesn't like that too much. I said, hey, this is the way the men are supposed to be. You're not supposed to be smooth like a bowling ball. But I don't know. I guess they've gotten people trained to eat the duck food and to be a certain way. But this is what I'm trying to say. The system does not want everybody as a carnivore. It's going to fight back. If you think you're going to convince everybody to go carnivore, think again. The best thing you can do is try to educate people and let them make their own decision.
Absolutely correct. Great points, all.
Yep, absolutely. So,
yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, some people will listen, some people will apply it, some people will benefit from it.
And it ain't right for everybody.
Right. And that's why we're more open-minded here on this channel, and not so, there's some carnivore purists out there, carnivore police, and we're open-minded. We're definitely, carnivore.
What you talking about, Willis?
and I'm with you 100%. I'm doing this because this is what I want to do. This is what suits me. And I don't preach to anybody else that they need to do what I do. If you come to me and ask me what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, I'll let you know. And I'll throw in that I think you should give it a try and see how it works for you. But some people aren't cut out mentally to handle this. They're not cut out to be able to get over their carb addictions. And for those that can't do it, all right, then what I suggest is, like Bob said, take the best of both worlds, or like you suggested with your friend, do a little bit of both. There's nothing wrong with eating, and even Dr. Berry recommends it. There's nothing wrong with eating a whole food diet. Just make it all natural, real food. So eat your meat, make sure there's plenty of fat. And if you want some vegetables, eat your vegetables. Now, one of my dreams when I retired was to really grow a nice garden. And I did. I grew a very nice garden for years. And when I went to carnivore, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to quit the garden. And my wife said, well, you like the garden. Why don't you continue doing it and then just give everything away?
That's what I do.
And I said, well, that just kind of sticks in my craw to give away my hard-earned work. I ain't going to do that. So what I did do is I had a massive raised bed garden. And so what I did is I gave all of my gardening equipment away. I gave it to somebody who wanted to start a garden and didn't have the means to do it. So that's how I got out of the gardening business. But yeah, if you can't handle carnivore, it just ain't your thing, then go ahead and eat some vegetables. Just eat the right vegetables and make it only vegetables. Stay away from the grains, stay away from the sugar, stay away from the processed foods.
Seed
and
oils.
You'll be fine. You will be healthy. You will do good. You will lose weight.
Yeah, and that's like Target Prime Rib says. I didn't know Saladino was doing animal based, and yeah, that's what he promotes now, and that's basically.
No, he's talking about Animal the movie because I made the statement that.
Okay.
And okay, let me.
I didn't know. So yeah, I hadn't heard
said.
that either. Yeah.
His outfit was promoting the movie.
Okay.
They were the ones that sent me the video in my email, and I was on their site, or I got an email from them last week, I think it was, and they had the trailer to the movie, and so I was assuming that they were behind it, but I think they were just promoting it now.
Okay, yeah. So you're talking about Animal, the trailer,
movie,
the trailer we played. Okay, I get it. All right. I'm going to get through some of these last comments here. We're going up on 2.5 hours. So Nick says, as long as people are getting better, he agrees. We need to make changes if we stall. Maybe depends on how long the stall is.
Yeah, I didn't.
Don't
stall. Make any
don't stall for 2 weeks and think that you're hit a plateau.
I stalled. I stalled for 3 months on 2 different occasions. I didn't change anything.
Yeah, and then
I just figured that's where my weight wanted me to be, and then eventually after 3 months, all of a sudden I kicked in weight loss again. Lost another 5 pounds. Stalled out for 3 months. Then it kicked back in and lost another 5 pounds. So
like I said, your body's going to decide when it wants to stop losing weight.
Yeah. And Dr. Berry said that he wouldn't call it a plateau until it's lasted at least 3 months. And then you might want to start, okay, well, it's lasted 3 months. Maybe we can do something about it. And there's a number of things you could try and get that scale moving again. Target Prime Rib, his gets better body composition, is improving in the 5 months I've been fully carnivore. He's gone from a 44 waist to a 40 and went down from a 2 times tight, 2X light to an XL loose fit. All right, good. Awesome progress.
Great deal. Congratulations.
And he didn't do that with a sugar diet. And all right, Nick he's 226 currently, going for 175, 180. You can do it. I went from 232 to 175. And yeah, it was awesome. I'm 5'8", by the way, by comparison.
I'm 6 foot tall. I went from 226 down to 160.
Yeah. So yeah, he's 6 foot tall and 160. So I can easily be 5'8" and go down to 160.
6'6", 195.
6'6"?
Yes, I'm 6'6".
Dude, you tall.
I am tall. I am the tallest carnivore.
Okay, I believe that's the tallest carnivore and the longest running carnivore.
Longest
Male
running
carnivore.
and the only one that eats ducks and iguanas.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, I eat ducks. I just haven't tried an iguana. I eat rattlesnake.
I've had rattlesnake.
Ostrich.
No
Oh,
ostrich.
yeah, I've had ostrich and emus. I used to raise emus.
Oh.
Did they sell you insurance?
No. When the market went down, I became a traveling emu butcher, though.
Believe if feeling this way means looking like you, Rick, I will be very happy. Yeah. Dang, Rick, that speech got me fired up. It was pretty good. I'm I might just have to clip that and release it as a separate video. That was actually
Absolutely.
that was a fantastic speech to be given off the cuff. It sounded like you
Rick,
rehearsed it. That was good.
Rick is a great addition.
Yeah. All right. I agree with both you, Rick and Geezy. Okay, so that's the end of our comments here. All right. So yeah, we're open floor now. If anybody wants to bring anything else up, we can talk about anything. Or
I want to raise.
You want to raise?
I want to raise.
Well, we'll all give us an address and we'll all write letters to your employer.
There we go.
All right. Well, I'm satisfied. It's been 2.5 hours and I'm tired, so I think I'm ready to hit the hay.
There you go.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta spend some time with the wife.
All right. So in closing, it bears repeating. What do we got in here? We got, according to this, we still have 11 people watching.
Oh, nice.
And that includes the 4 of us. So that means that the majority of you could also be on the screen with us as our guests, as an on-screen participant. All you need is a webcam, a microphone, and just a little bit of courage. And
even a phone.
and if you don't want to be on camera, but you'd still like to communicate what Rick is trying to say is Saturday morning, you can go over to his channel and you can call in.
That's right.
And it'll just be your voice going over. And in the same respect, you can also connect to our link and pop up on the screen with your camera off. We'll be okay with that too. But if you want the link, you can either join the channel or you can go over to carnivoretalk.com and register over there for free. And that's where we hang out throughout the week. One of the places, a lot of us are involved in a lot of communities on the web, but that's where a lot of us spend our time throughout the week answering your carnivore diet related questions. So
You got to join carnivoretalk.com there, Thomas.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And yep, I would, Bob, but I don't see the link. Okay, so like I don't share the link in the chat because I'm not quite comfortable with just anybody clicking it. So now technically anybody can click it. They just have to register at the website and then they can immediately access the post and click the link, so, but it's just it's just one of my security hurdles, so like, you have to be interested in enough to join the community and you can get the link and you can be on here. So I don't publish it because I don't know who's watching and I don't know who's going to get on here and start cussing us out. They're trying to preach to us about the benefit of oats.
You can always let the carnivore police right here just take care of that problem.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I probably could just post the link and I'm sure, we'd only have, respectable people join. And I mean, I can bounce someone out with the click of a button. So, but when you open the floor like that, you just always run the risk of a troll showing up, so.
Well, you got to have a little spice there, Bob.
Trolls are welcome on my channel.
Yeah. So the link to get on the screen here, if you register at carnivoretalk.com, is pinned in the private members only forum at the very top. It's the very top post. It says how to join Monday nights with Bob and Geezy. I think that's the title of the thread. And and right now it's the same link that we use every week, and we'll continue to use the same link every week, until we have an issue with people giving us a reason to change the link. So, so that's how you find the link. So yeah, next Monday, come and join us. Okay.
Woo-hoo.
All right. But that's it. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'm gonna end the stream in 5 seconds. If you want to stay on and still talk afterwards, that's fine. But we're gonna go off the air in 5, 4, 3, 2,
1.